Hello, everyone. In the earlier point, we have seen how the Nazism tried to inculcate Nazism in the Germany. The establishment of the racial state we have studied in the earlier video. So, which people faced a lot problem, which people were involved in the undesirable, desirable. This all we have seen in the earlier point. Now we are moving ahead with the next point, the racial utopia. The race, the term, I hope you understood in these discussions. We are discussing about the race from earlier of this chapter. Utopia. Utopia means that imaginary state which cannot find in actual. The state in which found only in the imagination, that is called utopia. So under the shadow of these people were looking the utopian, the racial utopia. What was happen in the Germany to make the racial utopia? The genocidal and war became two sides of the same coin. Genocide, genocide means the mass killing. One hand the mass killing was there, and other hand this, there was a shadow of the Second World War. Under the shadow of war, the Nazis proceeded to realize their murderous racial ideas. So, in the shadow of the war, these people, the Nazis, proceeded, worked to make the murderous activities there, and the ideal racial state tried to bring. Genocide and war became two sides of the same coin. The genocide and the war became two sides of the one coin. The genocide was also part of the war, or the killing was in the scale of the war taking place in the Germany. Occupied Poland was divided up. First, Germany invaded on a Poland and they occupied the Poland, and which part occupied of the Poland were divided in parts which can use for the other purposes. Much of northwestern Poland was annexed to Germany. Poles were forced to leave their homes and properties behind to be occupied by ethnic Germans brought in from occupied Europe. The Poles, the people who belongs, the citizen of the Poland, is called Poles. These Poles were forced to leave their homes. Forcibly, these people removed from their homes and properties. The homes and properties were used for the ethnic Germans which were brought from the rest Europe, and the places used for this ethnic German was of the Poles. The Poles were forcibly removed from their places. Poles were then herded. The herd you are looking here. These are the herds of not animals. It's are of the human being. Poles were then herded like cattle in the other parts, which were called general government. The general government was the term used where the people, undesirable people, were sent. So these Poles were also sent or moved toward the general government, the destination of all undesirable of the empire. The people in the general government were sent, whose were classified, whose were called as the undesirable of the German empire. Members of the police intelligentsia were murdered in a large numbers. It is the atrocities about the Poland we are looking. The people of the Poland, the people, those intelligent in the Pole or Poland were killed, murdered on a large numbers because the Germans want intellectually and spiritually free people. The people should not intelligent or spiritual. That is why they murdered in a large numbers. The intelligentsia were murdered in a large numbers in order to keep the entire people intellectually and spiritually survived. Polish children who looked like Aryans were forcibly snatched. The children who were looking like Aryans, blue eyed or fair, they were snatched, taken away, forcibly taken away from their mothers and examined by the race experts. The children were examined by the race experts. If they passed in this race test, they were given to the German families to grieve up this child. They were raised in the German families, and if the child is failed in this race test, then that child is deposited in the orphanage, and that orphanage was not in the good condition. Most children were perished in these orphanages. With some of the largest ghettos and gas chambers, the general governments also served as the killing fields for the Jews. The places for the mass killing used the ghettos, the gas chambers, and the general governments. In these places, people killed, murdered on a large scale. So, in this way, the racial utopia was tried to bring in the Germany by the Nazism. We have discussed this part in this point 3.2. The train you are looking in this picture, this is the goods train which used to deport Jews to the death chambers. So goods train were used to transport the people in the Germany. So the German, how German were treating to the other races or the Aryan only, how put at the top, that we have studied till here. In the next video, we'll see the steps to the death.